The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, thanks again for joining us on today's webinar. This is the third in our Lunch and Learn series. The first two are up on YouTube. Today's one will be added later on today. Again, hope you're enjoying these webinars, hope you're finding them useful, and anything we can do to improve, please do drop us an email and let me know if you'd like to see anything or hear anything in them. Again, quick introductions. I'm Donald O'Neill and I'm the Marketing Manager for Con William Health. I'll be emceeing today's webinar, and as per usual, I have Ronan Leonard, our Practice Ireland Support Team Leader, with me, and he's going to be
Hi
leading
guys.
today's session. So today, Ronan's going to look at immunisations in HPM. Again, just in terms of some housekeeping. If you do have any questions, please do use the question panel in your control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. Type the question in there. We'll get an alert that'll pop through with the question, and we'll go through as many as we can at the end. But without further ado, I am going to pass the controls over to Ronan, and he's going to kick off and run through immunisations in HPM. So Ronan, that's
Great, thanks Donald.
Cheers.
Okay, so we're just going to go through immunizations today. So essentially we're going to be discussing immunization types, vaccines, recalls, and the correlation between them. So I have a chart open here, so I can just I'll show you straight away. So basically we have our recall opportunity section down here, and we have our immunization section here. I always like to think of kind of recalls as more reminders than anything else. It's important that we don't use these recalls as actual immunizations or just mark them as complete when we give an immunization. It's important that the immunizations actually go in this section here. These kind of just serve as reminders. So what we'll do is we'll just start and we'll add a vaccine to the chart. So we have a test baby here that basically these recall opportunities are added by default once you add the patient to the system and they have a certain date of birth. So if we go into immunizations, you can see that it shows the recall opportunities on the right-hand side here. Now, the reason why it does this is it wants to show you which ones are due next, which ones have been completed, etc. You have your series of buttons down here at the bottom. Now, you have two main options for giving immunizations here. You have add, which will just add one. It doesn't have to be part of this schedule. It can be any sort of immunization. It can be an influenza vaccine, anything at all. But the main one we will be using here is create from schedule. Now what this button does is it actually looks here, finds the next one that's due and automatically selects it for you, so you don't have to select it yourself. So if I click on create from schedule here, you'll see that it's already brought in PCV first here, okay, because that is due next. So I don't have to select this from the drop-down list. So it's already there, so I can select my vaccine batch here from this drop-down. Click on that. Once I click on that, I'll get this pop-up here with all my contraindications. I can click OK on that then. And also, when I've added my batch, which we're going to go through in a few minutes, it will bring in whatever default dose, site, and method that I have populated there. So once I'm happy with all that, I can just click OK. And once you've administered it, you can see that this recall is marked as completed here as well. So if I close here, you'll actually see it's green here on this side. Okay, so now that we've added a vaccine into a chart, I just want to show you how to add a new batch. Now you can add this in two areas. The first area, which you probably caught a glance of there, is if I click into immunizations again, and if I click on create from schedule, as you can see, it automatically brings in 6 and 1, which is the next one due. If I click on a drop down here and I have the batch in front of me in my hand and it's not listed here, I actually don't have to go back into the administration section if I don't want to. I can actually add the batch number and expiry date here. So if I click on add, you get your pop-up here where you enter your drug, whatever that may be. Now, as I said, it's called the drug, but all vaccines are included in the monthly drug file or in your user added drug file. So they're just called, that's where they are, but you will find all your vaccines here. You add your drug, you add your immunization, and you add your batches here, which I'm going to run through in more detail. So you can actually do it there and save you going in. Or what I would prefer to do is it's kind of a more central area to do it, and it means that you can keep the list kind of tidier. If I go into administration, other settings, and vaccines. So you'll see here I have an immunization type and a product for each list here. So if I need to add another batch, it's another batch of 6 and 1. Infinrix. You highlight the immunization, you click edit. You don't click add here, you click edit. And as you can see, we have a couple of batches here. What you do is you just click on add, put in your batch number and expiry date, and click OK. So once you do that, it will appear as a third entry on this list, and then when you're administering in the patient's chart, it will be available in the drop-down list. Now that we've done that, I just wanted to go through adding a vaccine in its entirety, not just a batch number. So all of these recall opportunities and vaccines are in the system already, but say you want to add an influenza vaccine. What you do is, the first thing you need to do is go into vaccines, click on add, and you'll see here, you'll have an immunization type list here. So say we want to add a new influenza vaccine, which isn't on this list. So I'm going to search here for the actual immunization, and we'll just select Influvac. We'll add it to an immunization type, which we would have added already, or which will be in the system already. So we click on add, and we can actually just hand type I here, and it will bring in anything beginning with I, so we can click OK. Put in a default site. We can put in a default method. Default dose is 0.5 most likely, and then we add our batch number. So again, we can I'm just putting in random batch numbers here, and click OK. So now you can see there's a new one added there. And if I go back into this patient chart again, we'll just see that we can add it. Take I. And you'll see there's the new batch number that I've just added. Okay. Now, so that's immunizations. That's kind of the main area of immunization that you would all kind of be used to. What I want to cover is, I just want to cover very quickly, if we have time, basically how recall opportunities and immunizations work and talk together, because I suppose it's the main thing that you guys would come across insofar as when you administer an immunization here, you want to make sure that this recall opportunity is updating automatically without you having to touch it. Now, these are all kind of set up out of the box, but it's handy for you to know that you can actually set up your own fully tied together immunizations and recalls. So how you would do this first is you need to go into administration, other settings, and lists and drop downs. And if you scroll down here, you'll see there's a medical section here. The first thing you need to do is add an immunization type. Now, I've added one here already just for today to save me time. I've added one here, just called it webinar immunization. It's just for ease of so that I can find it and show you how it's done. So when you click add here, you put in your title, whatever the title may be, and then you can put in your default site, default method, default dose. I've already got that done. And the second thing you need to do is you need to add a recall type. So again, I've added a webinar recall. Okay, so once those two are added, what you do is you go into then vaccines, click on add, search for whatever the vaccine is. I'm just going to use Prevnar just for now, just as an example. And I'm going to attach it to the immunization type that I've created. And I'm going to call it webinar immunization, put in all my information, my default dose, and I'll put in a batch number as well. Okay, so that's added there. As I said, that's just basically, I've added a new immunization there. But say you want to have that be a recall, and you want to be able to issue that immunization and have the recall update automatically. What you do is you go back into administration and other settings again. Now remember, we've set up a recall type and an immunization type already. So you scroll down to recalls and go into recall opportunities. And what we're going to do is we're going to add one. We select our recall type from the drop-down list here. And then we put in all our any sort of ranges we want here. If we wanted for anyone between a certain number of years, if we wanted for people with certain conditions, it could be just for people with asthma or something along those lines. Well, what we'll do is we'll just do from age to 14. Okay. Make sure this box is ticked. It's very important that this box is ticked. And we click OK. Okay, so you can see straight away now, because I've put it in for any patient between 0 and 14, you can see this recall opportunity has immediately popped in. Now, if I go back into immunizations in this patient's chart, and if I was to issue the immunization, this will still not update. It will still say not notified yet. So the very last thing we need to do to just make sure everything is tied together is go into administration, other settings, recalls, and immunization recalls. Well, what this does is, as you can see, most of the childhood ones are done already. This provides the link between the recall and the immunization. So if I click on add, you select your recall type, and then select your immunization type. So that's provided the link there now, and hopefully now, when I go into immunizations, we can see webinar recall is there. We click on create from schedule. We add the batch number we've created. We click OK, and you can see it's updated it automatically. So that's all tied together end to end, and you'll be able to report on that. You'll be able to go into tasks, recall opportunities, and all those kind of things. You can see it's updated there. So that's, I'm just looking here now just to see if there's anything else. Oh yes, I wanted to show you a couple of things here. So just a couple of things to make you aware of when you're adding vaccines, etc. There are reports that you obviously have to submit monthly. So if I go into reports, vaccine reports, we have our monthly report here, and we'll edit that. Just to be mindful that you would probably run this monthly, but if you add any new vaccines here, or if you have, for any reason, you have filtered only one vaccine name, remember, if you're shown reports, that you need to make sure that all your vaccines are actually added here. So if you add a new vaccine type here, like this, just click on add and save. Because we've had it in the past where sometimes vaccines don't show up in reports, and the reason is that a new vaccine has been added on site, and it's actually not included in the report parameters here. So it's a very quick fix. Any questions coming in, Donald, so far?
None as of yet, but a couple from my from me, just kind of provoking them. If anyone else has any questions, do click on the questions tab, type your question in, and it'll come through to us. First of all, if you're trying to administer a vaccine and the batch number isn't appearing in the chart, is there anything that you can do about that? Or why
Yeah,
that
so what can happen is, I mean, especially if you've got a couple of nurses on site or a couple of different users using the system, what can happen, Donald, is that they can just be made inactive. So if I go back into administration and vaccines, if I highlight any of these here and click edit, see this batch number here is actually inactive. It's actually inactive.
Okay.
So that won't appear in any drop down. So what can happen is somebody can just inactivate it by mistake. It's very easily done.
Right.
So you just go in and check and see if that batch number is active or inactive, or it may actually not be there. You may need to add it.
Right. Okay, I get you.
Which is what we ran through at the start. You may actually need to add the batch. You might have got a new batch in only a day or so ago, and the batch number actually isn't there at all.
Sure.
So you'll need to add them.
Okay. And sometimes you'd see multiple vaccines in a vaccine list for the same vaccine. Why would that be?
Yeah, now this is a big one, and I've seen this on quite a few sites now. It doesn't cause a problem. Before I go into this, it's important to note that it doesn't cause a problem here at all.
Okay.
If I hit create new schedule here, I still get this immunization type, and I still get my list of batch numbers here. No problem at all. But if you look at mine, Donald, you see if I go into administration, other settings, and vaccines, you see here, I only have 1, 6, and 1 first. 1, 6, and 1 second, and 1, 6, and 1 third. I have seen before where you would have 6 and 1 first, and it would be there 4 times.
Okay.
Right? Now, if it's a different product, that's fine, because if it's a different product, you need to add a new vaccine because it's a different vaccine. Now, it might be
Right.
for the same immunization type, but it's a different vaccine. But if it's the same product, there can be a prevalence sometimes to rather than highlighting this and clicking edit and just adding your batch number here, users can just click on add and they end up selecting the same drug, selecting the same immunization type and putting in a new batch number here.
Okay.
So instead of having one 6-in-1 first, and when you edit this, there's 4 or 5 or however number of batch numbers there, you would actually have 6 or 7 6-in-1 firsts, all with only one batch number in them.
Okay.
Now, as I said, it's fine in the patient's chart. There's no problem. It still brings back the information, but it can just make for quite an untidy list here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always nice to kind of keep this list as kind of neat as possible, just so that it's easy to read and you can find your vaccine straight away, So you can tidy that up. There's no problem, and we can help you on the desk to do that. But
Perfect.
as I said, it doesn't cause a problem in the patient's chart. It's just kind of more just from a neatness point of view,
Nice and neat and kind of easy to see and easy to manage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
exactly.
And then I suppose if the monthly, going back to the reporting side of things, if the monthly vaccine report isn't showing some vaccines that people have administered, why would that be?
Yeah, that's kind of what I just went into there as well. I dipped into that at the end, but
Sure.
the main reason is that a user would add a vaccine or add a new immunization type and have it not included in the report. I think it may have come up in a few slides with Hib-Menc because Hib-Menc was kind of relatively new, and after a few months we did get a couple of calls where they were users were printing out the report that they would be submitting to the HSE, and vaccines weren't showing up. And that was why it was as simple as that. It was just that it wasn't added to the report.
Right. Okay.
So that would be the main reason,
Yeah, so straightforward enough. Yeah. No, look,
Yeah.
Ronald, that was great. There's no questions coming in, so unless you have anything else that you want to show or that you think might be relevant.
We can go into tasks. I suppose what we'll do is we might actually go in because we're here now. We may as well go into. I wanted to just run through one thing. I kind of made a note to sort of run through it if we had time at the end. Just tasks and recall opportunities inside of tasks.
Okay.
So we spoke about recalls and immunizations and all that kind of thing. I just wanted to sort of run through this area really quickly. This is quite handy. If you wanted to find out who's due in immunization and communicate with them. So what we can do is we can search for any recall type we have set up. So we'll just do 6-in-1 first, and due from and to, you put in today's date. Now it's important that this date here is they're overdue. Once it gets to this date, they're overdue. So the reason why there's 2 parameters here, Donald, is say somebody has a recall and they may have come for one recall 2 years ago, but they may have never come back. That happens. So you may not want to include people in that report. So overdue or due within this period will bring back everyone that's overdue in this date range and everyone that's overdue before now. Okay. So if you think about it, if I'm due a vaccine at 2 months old and I'm now 12,
you're still overdue.
I was due at 11 years and 10 months ago, but I'm going to show up in this report.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So that's the reason why. So you do have that option.
Okay.
But I would always, you get a more accurate result, or if you want to just whittle down people who you know are going to come back, I would select due within this period and put in the period. So if I hit search on this, I get nothing. So if I hit overdue and due within this period and hit search, as you can see, I'm getting my patient back. I'm getting quite a few patients back.
Sure.
All right. So the idea of this list is you have quite a few options here. You can contact them straight away. You can open the chart and give them a call. Okay. You can make an appointment for them straight away if you're on the phone with them.
Okay.
You can say, look, your child or yourself, you're due. Do you want to make an appointment? You can edit the patient's chart. You can go in and you can change if say the overdue due date is wrong, it was marked incorrectly, you can change the due date. What you can do is you can mark them for mail merge, and then you can print a mail merge. And what that'll do, Donald, is there's a mail merge template. So you can actually mark them off for mail merge and then print 10, 15 letters.
Great.
And post them out,
Okay.
And you can do the same with mark for SMS. and send SMS if you have
Sure.
SMS, or mark for email and send email.
Sure.
These are all good communication methods. The one thing I would say is if you're using this for any recall other than childhood, it could be a recall that would bring back quite a lot of patients in the practice. If I was to send an SMS or send an email to a group of patients, I would always just do one page. I would never select it. Say if you might have a massive long list with a long scroll bar, if you try and send an SMS to thousands of patients in your practice in one go, it's going to crash.
Sure.
I would always just do one page at a time, and then they will disappear from this. You mark them as, what you can do is you right click on any of these after you've actually sent them a notification or done whatever you've needed to do. You can group highlight, right click, and set them as appointment made or patient notified.
Okay. And they're all
Whatever you need to do.
are they all the same terms that are in the status bar up above there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay. I get you. Yeah.
they're all
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
same.
So you can
So,
also
and
then
then
search by those terms as well, what you've changed the person
exactly.
to.
So
Yeah.
exactly. So once you say if you mark and send 20 people for SMS and then hit send, you change their notification to patient notified, and then you would literally just click search again here, and they won't be on the list anymore. They'll be gone.
Yeah.
So it'll bring you down to the next 20.
Okay.
So that's quite a good list as well.
That's very
Yeah.
handy. Yeah. Yeah. Nice and nice to be able to reach out to people like that, or even.
And also as well, if it helps, I know a lot of people sometimes, and I have to be honest with you, from time to time, I can be one of them. Sometimes I like to have the list in front of my face, so you can actually print the list as well. So
Very good. Very good. Very good. Right. That's great, Ronan. That was really good overview
okay.
of everything in there, and I think that last little tip at the end will hopefully help people with their communications and how they handle their processes and things like that. So.
Yeah.
Look, again, we've had no questions, but if anyone does have any questions later on, please do drop myself an email, and we'll definitely be able to answer them and help you out. This webinar will be available to view probably later on this afternoon, but it'll be up on YouTube. Again, if you just search YouTube for HPM Lunch and Learn webinars, you'll get all of them there in the results, and you can watch them at your leisure. You can share them with staff, or you can pass them around. Again, look, we hope you're finding these useful and relevant. Any feedback is always appreciated. And I hope everybody has a fantastic long weekend if they have a long weekend. And Ronan, thanks again. And
No
look,
worries.
yeah, we'll be back next Friday for the last in the series, and we hope to see you all then. So thanks very much, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thanks. Bye.